Amara lived in the heart of West Africa, in a small red earth village called Egypt, where the sun painted the ground gold in the afternoons, and the nights hummed with talking drums. The people of Ijoma lived simple lives, fishermen casting nets at dawn, women pounding yam in rhythmic harmony, children running barefoot through the dust, goats complaining loudly about things only goats understood. But Amara was not like the others. She walked differently, dreamed differently, looked at the sky differently. While the village worried about rain and harvests, Amara worried about only one thing being seen. She wanted eyes to follow her, voices to whisper her name, footsteps to pause when she passed. She wanted to shine brighter than anyone in Ijoma. Her grandmother, Mama Nina, would often tap her forehead and say, "My child, fame is like palm wine, sweet when young, bitter when old." But Amara would only smile, as if she already knew better than age itself. One evening, the village square came alive when a wandering griot arrived. His name was Bako the Wanderer, a storyteller with robes, patched in colors that looked like they'd been stolen from a rainbow. Every patch held stories from kingdoms far beyond Ijoma. That night, the villagers gathered around him, the air thick with the smell of roasted corn and wood smoke. When Bako began speaking, even the wind quieted to listen. He told stories of impossible things: the girl who calmed storms with her voice, the hunter who defeated a giant using nothing but a whisper, and the queen whose beauty was so powerful it made time itself pause. But it was his final tale that wrapped itself around Amara's heart like a vine. He spoke of Zuri, the beloved, a woman whose fame spreads beyond mountains and rivers, whose name opened doors and gathered crowds. People praised her, poets worshipped her, kingdoms invited her. But then the griot's voice darkened as he said, "Fame followed her like a shadow, and shadows have hunger." The children shivered, elders nodded knowingly, but Amara, she only leaned closer, her eyes burning with a quiet fire. To her, Zuri's fate was not frightening, it was beautiful. When the crowd dispersed and the night settled back into its usual softness, Amara remained behind. Bako was packing his drums when she approached him with the kind of determination found only in those who have decided their destiny. "Griot," she said, "tell me how a girl can become like Zuri. How can her name travel beyond the hills?" Bako studied her with the tired eyes of a man who had seen too many dreamers fall. "Child," he said, "the world remembers those who serve it, not those who chase applause." But Amara shook her head firmly. "I want to be remembered," she insisted. "Tell me how." Bako hesitated, then lifted his staff and pointed toward the dense forest at the edge of the village. "In the forest of borrowed shadows lives a spirit called Ads. It can bless a person with recognition, but its blessings require payment. Those who seek it do not return the same." His warning floated between them like smoke, but Amara's mind had already left the ground. She was imagining herself shining brighter than that night under a calm moon that silvered the rooftops of Egypt. Amara packed a small bundle of things she thought she'd need: a calabash of water, a few dried plantains, her grandmother's beads for comfort, and the small mirror she always carried because she liked knowing what she looked like even when no one was watching. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't want questions or resistance. In her heart, she wasn't running away. She was stepping into greatness. Before the goats stirred or the roosters crowed, Amara slipped out of the village barefoot, her anklets jingling softly like a song only she could hear. The forest waited for her at the edge of the path, its shadows moving as though they recognized her desire. without looking back, without thinking about what she was leaving behind, without considering what might be waiting inside those trees. Amara walked into the darkness. In her mind, this was the beginning of her rise. She did not know that it was also the beginning of something ancient, something dangerous, something that had already begun watching her the moment she whispered her wish for fame. Amara stepped deeper into the forest, the red earth of Ijoma fading behind her, replaced by towering trees whose branches twisted like the arms of ancient spirits. Moonlight sifted through the leaves, casting a silver glow on her dark skin and the colorful beads in her hair. Each step was cautious but confident. Her heart pounded with excitement and fear in equal measure. She had left behind her village, her grandmother's warnings, and Tunda, quiet, steady boy whose love had been simple but sincere. She told herself that this was the price of greatness. Somewhere in this forest, the spirit adds awaited, and with it, the path to fame she had always craved. The night air smelled of damp earth and unknown flowers, and the forest seemed alive, whispering secrets she could not understand. Shadows moved, as if they had a life of their own, stretching long and then vanishing. Amara clutched her calabash and beads tightly, stepping over roots and fallen branches. Somewhere ahead, she saw a faint glow. Her pulse quickened. Could this be the spirit? Her legs carried her forward faster than her mind could follow. When she reached a small clearing, she saw an old figure sitting cross-legged on a flat stone. Its body was cloaked in dark feathers, its eyes bright like burning coals. The air shimmered around it, and Amara knew immediately this was Adz, child of the red earth. The spirit said in a voice that rustled like leaves, "Why have you come?" Amara swallowed hard, her voice trembling, but her resolve stayed firm. "I want to be known. I want to shine. I want my name to travel beyond the hills, beyond rivers, beyond everything my village can contain." The spirit tilted its head, considering her words. "Fame is a flame," it said softly. "It will warm you, but it can also burn your home to ashes if you do not respect it. Do you understand?" Amara nodded vigorously. "I understand. I am ready." The spirit's eyes glowed brighter. "Then you may have it, but know this. Every flame asks for sacrifice. You will leave behind the ordinary, the simple, and those who love you quietly. You will walk paths that others cannot see. And when your name spreads, some hearts will break because of it." Amara's chest tightened. She thought of Tund and the way he had loved her, silently, without asking for anything. But she pushed the thought away. She had chosen her path. "I accept," she whispered. A wind rose suddenly in the clearing, strong and whirling around her. Leaves lifted, and the spirit seemed to dissolve into a shower of tiny lights that vanished into the night. Amara stood alone, but she felt different, stronger, taller, as if the world itself had bent slightly to acknowledge her presence. By the time she exited the forest, the first light of dawn touched the horizon, painting the sky in oranges and pinks. She had reached the edge of a small town, a place buzzing with merchants, bicycles, and shouting children. She had never been to a town before, and everything dazzled her. The buildings smelled of smoke and fried food. The streets vibrated with voices and drums, and colorful fabrics flapped in the wind like banners of celebration. Amara felt a thrill she had never known. The world outside Ijoma was alive, and she was part of it now. Her first stop was the market. The sellers eyed her curiously, some whispering about the red dust girl from the distant village. Amara moved gracefully, scanning the stalls for new sights and opportunities. She bought a piece of bright yellow fabric, imagining it as the first wrapper of her new life, and slipped a coin into the hand of the stall owner. Everywhere she looked, she saw possibilities of attention, admiration, and ultimately, fame. She walked with a sense of purpose that made even the street children pause and watch her. As she wandered, a crowd had gathered in the town square. A stage had been hastily built, and a man with sunglasses and a golden chain was stepping onto it. The air hummed with anticipation. He strummed a guitar and then raised his hand, calling out, "Who is ready for music that will move your soul?" The crowd roared, and Amara's eyes widened. This was DJ Kwame, the very musician she had heard about in the Griots stories, traveling across kingdoms with songs that made everyone dance. Amara felt her pulse accelerate. She had heard his name in whispers even back in Egypt, tales of his fame and charm stretching like threads across the land. She knew that meeting him would change everything. Kwame noticed her almost immediately. There was a magnetic pull, an unspoken recognition in his gaze. He gestured for her to come closer. Amara stepped forward, beats clicking softly, heart hammering. "Your energy is different," he said smoothly. "Like you were born to be in front of an audience, to be seen." Amara's cheeks flushed. She smiled, just a little, hiding both excitement and fear. He reached out a hand. "Come, dance with me." She hesitated for a fraction of a second, then let herself move. The music wrapped around her, lifting her into a rhythm she had never known, one that made her feel powerful, noticed, and important. In that moment, she understood what she had been searching for all her life. Hours later, as the crowd dispersed and the sun rose higher, Kwame spoke softly to her. "I see talent. I see fire. Stay with me, and I will show you the cities, the stages, the lights you've been dreaming about." Amara nodded, almost too eagerly. She thought of Tund, of her village, of everything she had left behind. "Yes," she whispered, "I want this. I am ready." And with that, she stepped into a new world, where fame waited like a shadow just behind her, promising everything she had ever wanted, but silently carrying the weight of what it would cost her. Amara did not yet realize that as she embraced the glittering streets, the bright lights, and the thrill of attention, she was also stepping onto a path where loneliness, betrayal, and lessons in humility would follow. The forest, the spirit, and the fire of ambition had marked her. The journey toward fame had begun, but so had the trials that would test whether her heart could survive in a world that worships beauty and power, yet punishes pride. For Amara, the first taste of her new life was sweet, intoxicating, and irresistible. The shadow of what she had left behind was already stretching, long behind her, unseen, and ready to catch her if she ever stumbled. Amara had left the forest in her village far behind, but the path she walked was not empty of challenges. The town she had entered in the dawn's first light was vibrant, alive, but unforgiving. Merchants shouted over one another. Children darted through the narrow streets with barefoot swiftness, and the air was thick with smoke from cooking fires and the pungent scent of spices. Every corner seemed to hold both opportunity and danger, and Amara quickly learned that she needed eyes everywhere, ears alert to every sound. Her first days were spent wandering, observing, and absorbing the rhythm of the town. She noticed the way the women carried themselves with confidence, how men bartered with both charm and caution, and how children moved like miniature currents through the crowds. She practiced her new skills quietly at first, humming melodies she had never dared to sing in her village. tapping rhythms on wooden crates and drums abandoned in alleyways. She discovered the pulse of the town, and with it, she found her own. The first time she sang for a small gathering of market women, their eyes widened, and their hands froze mid. One woman, holding a basket of fresh yams, whispered, "Do you hear her? She carries the forest in her voice." Encouraged, Amara began performing whenever she could, in the markets, on street corners, and in small gatherings. Every note was a declaration. She existed, and she would be seen. It was during one such street performance that she caught the attention of Ibo, a traveling patron of the arts, who was known across several kingdoms for discovering young talent and introducing them to city stages where their skills could flourish. He approached her with a calm authority, his dark skin glistening under the morning sun, a wide-brimmed hat casting a shadow over eyes that missed nothing. "Child," he said, "you have fire in your voice, but fire is dangerous if it is left to burn alone. Let me show you the cities, the stages, and the eyes that can see you." Amara's heart leaped. This was the step she had been dreaming about. She nodded eagerly, beads in her hair, jingling softly. "I am ready," she said. Ibo smiled, but there was a caution in his gaze. Every city is a mirror. Some reflect beauty, others reflect shadows. Be prepared for both. Traveling to the city was unlike anything Amara had imagined. The roads changed from red earth to smooth stone, from winding paths to broad avenues. The air carried new smells, freshly baked bread, the temps of the river, the scent of hot tar mingled with incense from roadside shrines. Shops and stalls glimmered with fabrics so bright that they almost hurt her eyes. People moved faster here, and the rhythm of life was louder, sharper, more demanding. Amara felt the weight of her village life fall from her shoulders, but she also realized that the comforts of familiarity were gone. She had stepped fully into a world that would challenge her every step. Her first city performance was on a small stage in the town square, surrounded by onlookers whose faces were unfamiliar, their expectations invisible but heavy. The sun shone harshly on the wooden platform, reflecting off her beads and the golden threads woven into her wrapper. She took a deep breath and let the music flow through her, her voice carrying the story of her forest, her village, and the hunger for recognition she had carried like a seed. The crowd's reaction was immediate. Hands clapped, children danced, elders nodded approvingly, and whispers of her talent spread through the market like a gentle wind. Amara felt a new power in her chest. She was seen, she was heard, she was rising. Over the next weeks, she performed at every opportunity. Small crowds grew into larger audiences. Merchants and travelers spoke of her name in hushed admiration. People began recording her performances on their phones, sharing them across towns and villages. The recognition thrilled her, but it also demanded more. Longer hours, sharper focus, and a careful cultivation of her image. Amara learned to dress not only for herself, but for her growing audience, to braid her hair with intricate patterns that caught sunlight and attention alike. She polished every movement, every gesture, every note she sang. This city demanded perfection, and Amara was determined to give it. But the journey was not without sacrifice. One night, she sat alone on the rooftop of her small lodging, city lights twinkling like distant stars, and thought of Tund and Ajoma, the village she had left behind. The quiet love she had abandoned weighed on her heart in an unfamiliar heaviness. She realized that the pursuit of fame had a cost, loneliness. Those who loved her quietly were left in shadows, and though her new world offered applause and admiration, it lacked warmth. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer to the forest and the spirits, asking them to guide her and protect her heart. She knew that ambition could blind even the brightest flame if not tempered with humility. One evening, as she prepared for a larger performance in the central city plaza, word of her talent had already reached influential ears. Merchants, musicians, and minor nobility gathered, curious about the girl who had left a village in the forest to dance with city lights. When she stepped onto the stage, the air seemed to hold its breath. Drums started, voices harmonized, and the crowd swayed in rhythm. Amara let herself shine fully, each note, each movement, each smile calibrated for maximum effect. And in that moment, she felt it. The world was finally seeing her. Her name began to spread beyond the plaza, beyond the streets, beyond the city. With recognition came invitations, performances in nearby towns, introductions to other artists, and letters from patrons who wanted to invest in her journey. The girl from Ijoma was now a young woman known across several kingdoms, a voice that carried the fire of her forest and the rhythm of her village. Yet, every night, when the city fell silent and the drums faded into memory, Amara felt a quiet ache for the simplicity she had abandoned. She missed the smell of the red earth, the soft laughter of children running barefoot, the gentle guidance of her grandmother. She had chosen the flame of fame over the warmth of home, and the shadow of that choice followed her, subtle but constant. Despite the challenges, Amara pressed forward, determined to learn the ways of her new world. She learned to negotiate contracts, manage her performances, and present herself with a poise that was as much armor as it was elegance. She became a symbol of ambition, the girl who dared to step beyond the village and claim a place in the sun. People admired her courage, but only she knew the sacrifices behind the shining facade. With each city she visited, each stage she conquered, and each name she heard whispered in awe, Amara felt herself moving closer to the dream she had nurtured since childhood. But somewhere deep inside, she understood that the spirit's warning of shadows and cost had not been empty words. She was stepping into a world where admiration could turn to envy, attention to scrutiny, and applause to judgment. By the end of her first year in the city, Amara's fame had grown to a point she had only imagined in the village's quiet nights. Newspapers, bards, and storytellers spoke of her as the girl who carried the forest in her voice, and she became a symbol of possibility for other children who dared to dream beyond the red earth paths of their villages. She had achieved what she had come for: recognition, admiration, in the beginning of legend. Yet, in the quiet moments before sleep, she often touched the beads in her hair and whispered to herself, "I am ready, but will I survive the shadow that follows me?" The shadow of ambition, the cost of fame, and the longing for home all pressed around her. And still, she moved forward, knowing that the next stage, the next city, and the next challenge awaited, and that her story had only just begun. The city had grown familiar to Amara now. Its streets, markets, and plazas that had once dazzled her with novelty now felt like home. Yet a restless hunger remained in her chest. She had gained recognition, fame, and the admiration of many. But the quiet voice of her past, the whispers of the forest, the soft laughter of children in Tun's calm presence still echoed faintly. One evening, as she walked through the bustling city square, lanterns flickering in the twilight, she felt a pang of longing that fame and applause could not satisfy. The rhythm of the drums that once thrilled her now felt hollow in her chest. She realized that, in her pursuit of greatness, she had left behind more than just her village. She had left behind innocence, trust, and the simplicity of life that once made her heart sing. Amara returned to her small lodging that night, beads in her hair catching the soft glow of lantern light. She sat cross-legged, pulling out a small notebook where she had been jotting songs and dreams. Her eyes lingered on a drawing she had made months ago, a simple scene of her village, the red earth and children playing near the river. A tear slid down her cheek. She whispered, "I came for the flame, but I forgot the warmth." She had learned how to survive in the city, how to command attention, and how to make people marvel at her talent. Yet, survival and admiration were not the same as happiness. Her grandmother's words, long dismissed, now returned with clarity. True greatness does not take from the heart, it grows from it. The next day, Amara performed at a large city festival. The stage was adorned with golden fabrics, drums and banners waving in the afternoon sun. The crowd roared as she appeared, her colorful beads and wrappers shining in the light. She sang with a power that had drawn attention to her, each note flawless and captivating. But amidst the cheers, her eyes sought a familiar face, one that belonged not to the crowd, but to someone who had quietly shaped her heart. She saw Tund, standing at the back of the audience, smiling gently, watching without fanfare, his presence calm like a river flowing through the chaos of her life. Her heart skipped a beat. Here was the boy who had loved her simply, without expectation or show, who had not sought applause but only her happiness. After the performance, Amara descended from the stage, her legs trembling not from exhaustion but from emotion. Tund approached slowly, hands tucked into the pockets of his simple clothes. He did not clap, did not shout, did not ask for attention. He simply smiled, and in that smile, Amara saw the truth she had long ignored. Love and admiration were different things. Recognition could lift her name, but love had lifted her heart. "Amara," he said softly, "I see what you've become, but I also see what you've missed." She nodded, tears blurring her vision. "I thought I needed the world to see me," she admitted, "but I forgot the ones who were already there." Together, they walked through the city streets, the sun lowering in the sky, casting golden light over the cobblestones. Amara noticed the markets, the children, the women carrying baskets and singing as they walked. She saw the city not only as a stage for her talent, but as a living, breathing world filled with stories beyond her own. In that moment, she realized that fame could bring recognition, but it could not fill the spaces in her heart left empty by pride, ambition, and the neglect of genuine connections. Over the following weeks, Amara began to balance her fame with humility. She returned to Ijoma, the village that had nurtured her dreams, bringing gifts, music, and stories from the city. Children gathered around her as she taught them songs and rhythms she had learned, and the elders nodded in approval, smiling at the girl who had returned wiser than when she had left. She reconnected with Tund, not as a village girl or a star, but as a young woman who had learned that love, patience, and respect were as important as talent and ambition. Amara also understood the responsibility her recognition carried. Patrons, musicians, and festival organizers now sought her guidance, not only for her performances but also for her wisdom. She advised young performers to treasure their roots, to honor their communities, and to remember that fame without integrity was like a drum without rhythm, empty and hollow. She became a mentor, passing on lessons learned the hard way, sharing stories of forest spirits, village mornings, and the cost of chasing the world before understanding oneself. In the city, Amara's performances continued to captivate audiences, but now her songs carried more than skill, they carried heart, honesty, and the weight of her journey. She sang not only for recognition but for connection, for the laughter and tears of those who listened, and for the whispers of the forest that still lived within her. Her fame became a bridge between the villages and the cities, between tradition and ambition, showing that greatness was not measured only in applause, but in the strength to remain true to one's soul. Years passed, and Amara's name became known across the lands. She traveled to distant towns and kingdoms, her songs echoing in marketplaces and festivals alike. Yet, she never forgot the red earth of Egypt, the calm strength of Tund, or the lessons whispered by the spirit in the forest. In every city, stage, and crowd, she carried the forest, her village, and the quiet truths of her journey. She had become a legend, but she had also become wise, kind, and humble. Her story was sung by griots and remembered by children, a tale of ambition, love, humility, and the courage to return to oneself. On the day she performed in the central plaza of the largest city, Tund stood beside her, not as an observer but as a partner in life and in spirit. Amara's voice soared over the crowd, each note a blend of her talent and her lessons learned. When she finished, the audience erupted in applause, but she looked only at Tund. She whispered, "I have everything I ever wanted, but now I know what I truly needed." He smiled, taking her hand, and together they walked back through the streets, the sun setting behind them, casting a golden glow over their journey. The forest, the village, the city, and the stages all had shaped her, tested her, and guided her. Fame had been a teacher, ambition a path, but love, humility, and wisdom were the rewards she would carry forever. And as the last rays of sun disappeared behind the horizon, Amara knew that her story was not only hers, it was the story of every child who dared to dream, who left home to seek greatness, and who returned stronger, wiser, and whole.